All right. Good evening, you guys. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning.
Thanks, Meena, for inviting us. I think
Dev has come as well. Hi, Dev.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
But did you also come on the camera if possible?
It's on. Okay, I found the issue.
Yeah. All right. So it's all guilt-free weekend indulgence of 1 hour of chat here. Thank you guys for joining. So let me quickly introduce myself, and then we'll go introducing the rest of the speakers. So I head HR at AirMeet, which is a global virtual events company. So you can see this is the product that we have. Very proud that we're doing really good in the Americas, in the US, in the Europe, APAC regions, really catching up in the virtual events space. I personally have about 13, 14 years of experience in the past heading HR, business HR for SaaS companies like Capillary and Circles Life in Singapore. My entire big chunk of my life I've spent being business partners to leaders, especially technology leaders, and I've seen early stage startups to slightly established companies. I've never worked with big established companies, so right now I think I'll also be one of the right person to talk about HR tech that can be used in early stage and up to like Series C, Series D kind of companies. So that's about me. I love to kind of introduce our speakers today. So we have Divkiran, who heads HR transformation, HR tech for Seagate. And we have Ketan, who heads people operations for RentoMojo, and Punret, who heads people operations again for FalconX. Guys, take turns and also introduce yourselves. We'd like to hear from you about you. So maybe we can start with Ketan first.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I take care of HR for a young startup called RentoMojo, and I use the word young more often because one of the reasons I joined RentoMojo was to work with younger folks. So much so that when I was prior to RentoMojo, I was with IDFC Bank, and I was the youngest in my grade. And I land up at RentoMojo, and the first day when I was looking at the data, I realized that I'm the oldest employee. So that's a contextual shift that happened for me. But I wanted to do that. The younger organizations, the younger generations, their requirements are different. Their expectations from organizations and HR and leaders and managers are different. So it's about re-engineering what HR would be doing for future. And having worked with some very large brands and small brands, having people, 1.5 lakh people to about 400 people, that's the mix that I've worked with. The experience has been overwhelming, and I wanted to bring that all together and see how can I use that to enhance the people experience at RentoMojo. I bring about 15 years of experience. I also am a coach and an author. These are the two things I'm passionate about apart from HR. So thank you again for having me here. I will share whatever experiences or point of views that I have, and I hope that helps.
Thank you, Ketan. Let's go with Dev next.
Thank you, Meena, as always, for inviting me to an interesting discussion. This one specially for me because I actually started my career with being in tech, not in HR. First year or so, I was actually doing some sort of coding, and then, as luck would have it, I got into coding for HR technology, and then HR technology and transformation has just stayed with me. For me, it has been a full circle because I've worked on as a consultant. Learning new products and telling customers what's the best practices and what to do, then moving to product, building an HR product myself, and then taking all of that experience to industry, and then trying to do it from how an organization would do for the last 5-6 years, dabbling mostly into how talent mobility and internal talent marketplaces are growing. And I think that's one thing that has stayed consistent, is that every year or two you would have to learn a new technology, learn all the changes that are going on in the world, and then try to see how you implement it using technology, because at the end of the day, technology is an enabler. It is really about the people at the end of the day. So hopefully I can learn more on that and share more on that today.
Thank you so much, Dev. Pleasure to have you. And we have our very newest speaker. I think in the last, I think I've just made contact with him a couple of weeks, and we've been in touch from the Axel group, right? I think
Yep.
that's how we know each other. He's one of the newest speakers in this group. Of course, is consistent. Like, she speaks with us like almost all the time.
Try.
Ketan as well. Yeah. So, Punit, let us know about you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Meena, for inviting me. I hope this can help me out here since it's going to be my first session, and she's been a sort of mogul in these sessions. I'm going to be relying on her to help me in the awkward situations. But thank you so much, Meena, for inviting me. Excited to first and foremost wear a shirt on a Saturday morning after a very long time. I think that's one of the highlights, I think, of the week that's going to be for me. That getting ready on a Saturday after a long time. So a little bit about me. I'm right now handling the people operation here in FalconX. We're a small startup in the crypto space. I know it's a very interesting space, uh, and I think what this topic was something which was very close to me because just when the pandemic hit us, right? That's when we actually got everything going in India office. We were a team of 7 people, and really looking to hire the next 30, 40 odd people, and build a team, build a office in India. And we've hired more than 40, 45 people in the last one and a half years. So really getting them onboarded, really sourcing from sourcing to getting them onboarded to getting them part of the system, and getting them ramped up. A lot of tools have helped us in that. Small tools that earlier probably when you were in office face to face would be not required, but with this current situation and with what's looking at least the next 6 7 months, I think these tools can really help early stage startups. Or I would like to believe that they can provide assistance to any budding HRs who would want to really smoothen the processes for not only onboarding but retention as well.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Pundeet. Sounds good. Thanks for introducing all of you. I think I want to do a quick rapid fire with you guys. Um, Rapid fire, please do rapid fire because we want to do it in the next few minutes and go on to the questions. So let's start with Pundeet and go reverse like that. So,
Sure.
Pundeet, tell me about one thing that's not on your LinkedIn.
So I think one thing which is not on my LinkedIn, which I even told in my first joining FalconX, was I really like getting inked, and I've got about 18 tattoos. And yeah, that's probably something which everyone found really fascinating in my previous company as well. So yeah, I've got about 18 tattoos. I like getting inked. It's a sort of bonding experience with me and my sister that we do.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a little bit of that's a fun fact which is not on LinkedIn about myself.
Got it. So, what's your routine as a people leader?
So a routine as a people leader, I think in the morning, the most important thing is just connecting with your team, right? Because that's one thing which really gets the day going for me. Just in understanding what is everyone's goal for the day, B, any particular follow-ups that need to happen, because especially in the HR ops side, you have a lot of small nuances that you need to get filled from, getting feedback of various interviews to ensuring that the one-on-one calls of the new people happened and all those small things. So the most important thing for me, at least the first thing I like to do in the morning after getting up and getting my meals done, is meeting the team, getting their thoughts, and getting them ready for the day.
Yeah, and I also know that a lot of people are waiting for the pandemic to lift, and everyone's having a bucket list of lot of travel. But apart from travel, what is that one thing you'd put on your bucket list?
So actually, one of the things which is on my bucket list right now is to get married. Me and my fiance were planning to get married in December, and hopefully the third wave does not hit us and we are able to have a nice wedding. That's the goal right now. That's the dream right now.
Yeah, good luck with that. I don't see lavish weddings happening in the next couple of years. I don't know if others have other opinion, but I kind of clearly see that it's always going to be close family net small ceremonies.
I think that has its charm in its own. So let's
Punrit,
pray for the best.
Punrit, I'm not sure about it will be third or fourth or fifth wave, but marriage itself would be equivalent to a wave to be prepared for.
That's true.
Thanks for that, Kiran. I will keep that in mind. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm really happy that it's getting delayed a little, because I'm like, okay, that's something I'm like really I've been thinking of COVID as a blessing in disguise in some ways. That at least the dates are getting a little bit delayed because it was supposed to happen in June this year, and I'm like, okay, I got another 6 months to prepare for the main wave of my life. So that's, I think, a good sign.
The more near it's coming, you're getting more cold.
Yeah.
Are you also hoping that your fiance hasn't joined the session today?
I am. I just checked the attendance list right now to just see if she's joined or not. So all good here. The thing is, Meena has told me this is a recording session, so I hope she doesn't go on LinkedIn and see this video and if we reach 10 minutes and be like, hey, what did you say?
All right. Let's bring all the questions to Ketan now. Ketan, tell us one thing about you which is not on LinkedIn.
I'm a automobile freak. In my 14 years of career, I bought 11 vehicles, and I keep on shifting and getting a new one every 2 years. So that's something that is not there on LinkedIn.
Do we have
Oh,
Dhoni?
nice.
Sorry.
Do we have Dhoni here? Dhoni Junior?
Yeah, he is able to retain all the 11 that is bought. For lack of parking, I had to move on from one and then pick up another one. So that's how I've been tactically correct there. But yeah, I'm a huge automobile freak.
Nice, nice.
What are you driving these days, Ketan?
One first, Bangalore, you don't drive, you crawl. But
I
the
know.
one that I have is a 3 Series BMW.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, glad you mentioned Crawl about in Bangalore. So the main thing which we're doing for all our employees is getting them housing situations just 10 minutes from the office. So we've got a small office space in HSR that we are planning to open once things get better. So all the new joiners, we've actually sent house listings of literally things which are walking distance so that none of them have to bother about a vehicle or a transportation, because I think that's one of the best or the biggest issues in Bangalore.
No, so Bangalore shifted. So I've always been a four-wheeler guy. This is the first time in my life I'm driving a two-wheeler because that's the only thing that works well. So that's something that Bangalore taught me.
Yeah, I think glad that we're all right now remotely working, and I'm super glad that Airme is a fully virtual company. I've not stepped out of my house. I bought a new vehicle though, but I'm not using it right now. Okay, so quickly moving to other questions, Ketan. Now tell me about the top 2 or 3 things you do as a routine as a people leader.
Yeah, I'll keep the people leader side aside. That because that's a part of my role. But I'm a really morning person. My morning starts at about 5 a.m. and I'm typically a huge follower of the 5 a.m. club. So I get up, I meditate, I write, I journal, and I do exercise. So that's 2 hours is like the most power packed hours for me. And then I like to have my day planned as much as I could. So 80% is something that usually is there on my calendar. So if it's not on my calendar on my note, it usually doesn't happen. So that's something that I follow, and it's very powerful. It's from a productivity point. Once I started that, a lot of things have shifted for me. So
Yeah, I think as a people leader, you just have too many things on your plate, and if it's not on your calendar, it's going to be very difficult. You need to be extremely organized to give time for everything, right? So that's a great way. So another quick question is: apart from traveling, right? What would be that one thing on your bucket list when the pandemic opens?
when pandemic gets over, it would be a vacation, a family vacation. It's been about a year and a half where we have been uh, having the vacation at home itself, and I'm fortunate that we are able to do that. But I literally want to step out with my family for a long drive. Possibly, we've been eyeing Coorg or Chikmagalur for quite some time, so that's going to happen soon.
Sure. Okay. So I'll just cut the travel and say spend time with family. Right. So quickly, let me bring Div as well. Yeah, Div. Same questions for you. What's one thing about you that's not on your LinkedIn?
I love to travel, Meena. So this makes the second question more difficult on how to answer if not traveling. But I was thinking of giving some professional answers, but then I heard Ketan and Punret, and then I was thinking that will not go well if I say I don't have that quality or that capability not on my resume. But yeah, I love to travel. I haven't traveled in 1.5 years now, so it's kind of becoming an itch. My friends used to laugh earlier on that you have wings tied to your feet, you just cannot stay at one place, you have to explore. So that's not happened. Definitely, that's one thing. The other thing which I'm really missing is I really used to love shoe shopping. I have a lot of shoes. I don't want to tell you how many. And I probably, when things are better, I'll go back to that. I haven't bought even one shoe in last 1.5 years, so that's not me at all. So I think, and from a perspective of what I would do, definitely shoe shopping. And I also really want to go for, meeting my family and probably have a picnic, because I have a dog, as you know, and he's not also been out and about. He's stuck at home with us. All we do is, play with him inside the house. So I'm really looking forward to going out in open spaces, playing ball with him, and, see him get wet in puddles and rub himself on the grass. He's really missing all of that.
That is sweet. I totally wish you get to travel and go grab those Jimmy Choos.
Absolutely.
That's a good business idea right now. If there's any developers who can probably make an app which can help Divakaran just order shoes and try them at home, I think that would be a good idea for you as well. Like just trying them
Yeah.
at home, whatever you like, just the remaining you can send them back immediately. So
And
I think
probably
that's a good
add
idea.
like a way to show them off as well, and not just buy them.
Yeah, so that's the latest trend in the crypto sphere these days, guys. I don't know if you know about these NFTs and all that's happening. So right now, Gucci is launching a $10 shoes, so which you can
Yeah.
put virtually on your feet and post it on Instagram. So I think that's the latest trend which is happening in the world. That you can put virtual clothes and shoes on yourself and post it on Instagram and just make everyone jealous about what you have right now.
Nice, it was a nice business idea. Yeah, I was already thinking that this gonna once she grabs those Jimmy Choo, the Gucci, she's gonna put a LinkedIn post on it.
I'll be looking forward to that post. That's gonna be reposted from my end.
I wish. I wish.
Sounds good. So let's move into the the topic of the day, that what kind of HR techs are really helping organizations really scale, ensure that they improve productivity, improve engagement, etc., etc. But for ease of the audience to understand what we're trying to focus here, let's also, let's kind of divide us with a few domains, and probably you can talk about those domains and what kind of HR tech helps in those domains from an aspect of you can ladder up from early stage startup to established organizations, what kind of tools they're using, and where is it helping. So let's perhaps start with Ketan. I think Ketan will be talking about engagement and performance tools. So Ketan, let us know, what are the list of tools that are must-haves, laddering up from early stage startups to later organizations.
Sure. See, I'll try to add something more in terms of how to decide when do you need a tool. I think the challenge or the opportunity is that there are so many now. And here's something, and I remember when I started my career, I worked with a large brand, then I joined a very homegrown startup which was paying literally salaries in cash, which means there was no technology and no processes. And first month when I ran literally payroll myself on Excel, I was like, wow, I've achieved something in my life. This is almost about 10 years back. But yeah, I could have easily done that. I enjoyed it, but there was no value add that I was doing to myself or to the organization. And I've been trying to see in startups, how do we decide on when to need a tool and what do you do with the tool? Here is something that my experience is, look at any process. And if you have information, but there is a individual between information and the output, you need to actually go and figure out a tool to implement there. Now that's where, because what it will do is it will reduce your dependencies on people, and startups are all about having as less people as you could. And fortunately, unfortunately, in a function like HR, that's the function that gets the last sign off on an additional hire. That's a reality. So technology will come to a huge leverage there. So use this dimension to understand why is that there is an individual who is essentially doing that particular process, and can you replace that with a tool, and what's the cost of the tool? End of the day, if a human can do that at X, but the technology is costing you 5X now, I would still go with X. But even if there is something which is equivalent, I would bend more towards technology. And I will add the dimension in terms of where do I end up, or how do I see the future. If I have to scale, then even if it is at X cost vis-a-vis a cost of an individual, I would still invest heavily here so that it can help organization scale as it go ahead. The tools that we use here, and something that I've used in small organizations or large, is around engagement. And when I say engagement, I'm not talking about the late stage engagement where we're talking about a manager playing a very important role in the overall scheme of engagement. I'm talking about how do you listen to your people, and especially when the organization is just running behind few milestones where people is not the most important preference. Product is still the priority. Product, process, people. This is what usually early stage startup sees. So when product is everybody's chasing, how do you still add value by listening to what people are saying? We use a tool called Culture Monkey here at RentoMojo. It was a huge savior from doing everything in Excel, and from trying to hire somebody who would be an engagement manager who will just speak to people, collate data, put an information, put that in a presentation, do an interpretation, and say, okay, this is what we need to do. I'm losing time. I'm losing the ability to respond. Versus there is a live, there's a tool which runs as I want or automatically. It gives me information. It starts forming a cohort and a data on itself, and I have instant actions that I can take. See, startups, when people join, they actually have very, very less patience for a lot of things to fall in place also, right? And I'm talking about startups which are very engineering or product or data driven, where you have a lot of folks. They would not wait for a perfect movement when you are going to hire a manager who's going to solve the problem. So that's where technology comes very, very handy. Culture Monkey proved to be very, very an absolutely amazing tool for us, where in spite of being geographically spread, we were able to capture, and we are able to capture the pulse of the organization, and most importantly, take action and not wait for somebody to come and give a feedback, and then somebody is going to put that in the priority list and trying to find out what has happened or not. You instantly move to an action. So that's one tool that has worked really well for us. Prior to that, we used to do that in Excel. It was a pain. Again, half a months, days of somebody in my team was just going into assimilate that information and convert it into action and track it and see if it's happened or not. So that's one that we use. Performance comes with a very, very different set of challenge. Large organization, small organization, I still haven't been able to solve for it. Now, one challenge that comes with performance management is there's more for organization, less for people. See, technology adoption also depends upon who is it benefiting. Now, something like a payroll or a HR tech or even a recruitment enables the lives of managers. So they find value in that. Adoption is not very easy, but relatively easier. At least in my experience, performance management has been the most difficult one, because you're trying to build transparency and you're trying to put everybody into a particular yardstick, saying that how are you performing, what will happen to your future, how is everybody seeing that. Now, we used a tool called Dockable here. It worked well. It very flexible, very agile. I could configure it to what essentially I had to put in place, and very affordable. They've been acquired recently by X to 10X, so I don't think so they exist as a product, but Dockable proved to be a very, very helpful technology platform for us to actually assimilate and bring technology, the performance together. But again, as I said, we had multiple pieces. So we had a ClickUp that we were using, continued to use for the tech folks, because they were comfortable. It was far more agile. It was something that tech folks were using. So the challenge was, how do I integrate that to the Dockable machinery? Or the Slacks of the world do exist in terms of how do you ensure that the projects and things are moving. So we had to run two machineries. One is a very agile machinery where everything is happening on the go and people have to rally and ensure that a project is done. And when you look at a top down, where there are organizational goals, quarterly goals, half yearly goals, I think I won't go beyond that for startups any which ways. How do you bring the entire organization rallying up to all those key matrices? So these are the two tools that have worked really well. And as I said, ClickUp is there, and there are smaller pieces that individual functions use to whatever works for them. And how do I bring them together in one single umbrella, so that as an organization, I have a view and understanding of how the organization is moving ahead. So these are the two tools I could talk about right now.
Sounds good, Ketan. I can totally remember myself whenever I joined an early stage startup, everything was one person, one, and everything on Excel. And I think as organizations move, right, once they are 100, it becomes very difficult for one or two people to manage engagement and performance is when you bring in tools in place. Thanks. Very informative, Ketan. I think in terms of insight and engagement, I have used tools like Culture Amp, Culture Monkey, and also tools like Infido. Really good insights. If people can afford, are ready to invest, I think they should go for some of these tools.
Yeah.
So cool. So let me bring Punrit next. He's going to talk about recruitment ATS and some of the HRMS tools that we early stage startups use.
Thanks so much. Even that was really informative. I already, scheduled a demo with Culture Monkey for Monday because I think this is something which will really help us in a lot of ways. So thanks for that. And
You're a little choppy.
sorry, Meena, your voice broke. Uh,
I- no. Your voice is a little choppy. Is anybody else able to hear
okay.
him?
Yes,
Is
Meena,
my
we're not able to hear you, but
Okay.
Punreet is pretty audible. I think
Oh,
something is your.
maybe.
oh,
Go on.
perfect. Yeah, so talking about the ATS tools or the recruitment tools, right? I think especially for early stage startups and when FalconX were figuring out, so we were we got two offices, one is in US and one is in India, right? So we always was on, and our founder is a very pro Google person, so we started off using Google Hire as one of the tools, but I think it's summer set in September last year. So it was a very interesting challenge, getting everything migrated to from one tool to another, especially because in the pandemic time, right, not being in office, not being able to connect with everyone, and get their thoughts in a nutshell, right, having multiple calls. I really wanted the next tool to be really simple for a lot of reasons. A, because a lot of interviewers, right, not just the HR people, but the people who are doing interviews. Uh, Sorry, Mina, there's a little bit of disturbance there. Uh, Okay, so I was just saying that basically tools wanted to keep the tools as simple as possible for the interviewers, right? Because I think one of the main pain points we found was that people don't put feedback on time. I mean, I don't know whether the same problems with you guys, Ketan, and but for us, getting people to put feedbacks after the interview is done is one of the biggest challenges, and that was one thing which I really wanted to solve, at least in the recruitment business, right? Uh, so there's one tool which is called Fresh Teams, which we really liked. It's of the Fresh Desk software. It was really, really simple to use, and I think it's really affordable. So especially for early stage startups, right, who are looking to not invest too much, but at the same time have a tool which can really be modified according to their preferences, not only the interviewers but also the feedback and scorecards and everything like that. So Fresh Teams was one of the tools which really helped us ramp up. So there you can actually schedule calls, give feedbacks, do group calls as well, and everything like that. It can create links. So Fresh Teams was one of those tools which helped us scale to the next level, and we're hoping that it helps us to scale to the level of 100 and 200 employees as well. On the HRMS tool, I think one thing was which I felt from the starting as well in my previous companies, which I had seen was a sort of drawback, was that salaries, at least getting everything in a nutshell, right? It's very important to do it with the first 10 employees itself. A lot of early stage startups figure out that right now the team's small, you can manually do the salaries, and you can just process it and get it done with. And once the team becomes a little bit bigger, that's when let's get on probably figuring out a tool which will help us manage that. But I feel like as soon as if you're a 10-member team or even a 5-member team, getting this tool in place is very important because it sets a precedent for the employees to join, to know exactly what's happening, because salary is something which is a very important thing for people, right? Getting to know exactly how much they're making, ability to provide tax benefits and the tax slips and everything like that is something which is a very important thing for any new person to join a startup, right? Because they're joining with a little bit of uncertainty, and if these things are in place, right, it gives them a little bit more confidence that this company is going to be going to the next level. So there we sort of use this tool called Keka, which we use to not only manage the salaries but also manage the leave of the employees and also manage the reimbursement. So that was one of the thing which we really wanted to figure out was reimbursement and all these small nuances, right? Because earlier in office, you could just come and hand over the bill to the accounts department and they would just process everything. But right now with the pandemic, with everyone just spread across, and people have to buy small things. For example, a monitor for their work desk, or their keyboards messed up, or their laptops messed up, and they need to get repaired. So all these the bills and all these things, we felt there should be a tool which can manage that instead of doing it manually, no matter how small the team was. So there we used Keka as a portal. Really happy with that. I think if anyone wants to use that as an HRIS tool, especially for the early stage startups, I could see there were a few people who had asked us before the call started that tools which will really help them get things on the ground level enough. So I feel like such tools, which are reasonably priced but at the same time really user friendly, can help the company at least take care of those small nuances, and not and the company can figure out on the bigger picture and can keep the eyes on the bigger picture, such as hiring at scale, right? Because right now I think in the next 6-7 months everyone's hiring like crazy. So all these things, if they are taken care of in the starting itself, I think that will just make life easier for everyone.
Thanks, Punret. Thanks. I think that really adds a lot of value here. And I remember in earlier days, I used to, one of the ATS that I really love is Fresh Teams. It is
Yeah.
cheap and I think just does the job smoothly, seamlessly for everyone. And you have enough packages to choose what you want, what kind of features you want. And for an HRIS, I think a lot of finance team and younger HR teams will vouch for Great Tip and Zing HR.
Hmm.
They're again cost effective and does the job for early stage startups. Of course, there is you can go to Bamboo HRs and Workdays and all of
Yep.
those in the later stage, but I think these are the ones that help people who don't want to spend much, but want to get the
Hmm.
job done. Thanks
Exactly.
for the inputs, Punrit. Next, I would love to ask Dev. Dev, I want to understand even for myself, right? Like when do we introduce an L&D tool, right? For even early stage startups, even for companies which are Series C, Series D with 500, 800 people, right? They still defer or even hesitate to go buy an L&D tool. They want to make do with LinkedIn's and the other available tools in the world. But when do you think what kind of L&D tools have you seen really work?
Sorry, I think I was on mute. So I think for me, the way I think about it is, first of all, when we say tools and technology, I one prefer calling it a HR technology landscape or an ecosystem, right? So no one tool today is enough to deliver the end-to-end vision, whether it be a startup or whether it be an established old organization like Seagate. That end-to-end landscape needs to be there connected to deliver the value that HR really wants to. And L&D is a huge part of it, right? Because it's not just learning, it is also development tied to it. So there might be one tool which is really good at helping you learn something new, but it may not tell you what is the next opportunity you can pursue in the organization with the learning that you're doing. Or if you have a development plan, what is it that you can learn and what is the career path you can choose? So I think they all need to be connected. And for the specific question of L&D, again, I'll go back to what Ketan and Punret both said, and you also mentioned just now that it's really about how much value it is adding, right? So, say for example, it's a 7-member team which is just starting out. For them, it may not at that point of time add a lot of value to acquire an L&D and implement an L&D. It might be preferable to just get subscription for a small team to a MOOC or a LinkedIn Learning or Udemy or Coursera or something like that. And when you start getting to a 50, 100 and more people, you can start using the same platforms, but maybe have someone who builds your content and uploads it there, create specific learning paths or courses for your own organization, because then regulatory and legislative compliances start coming in, where you have to do certain courses like sexual harassment, you must complete it. Other courses in if your workplace includes anything to do with job hazards, you have to give them training around that and show that you've done that. So I feel that's how the L&D would grow. At the same time, I think the good thing about L&D platforms today, especially some of the more intelligent ones, is that I would like to see, and the future of learning more on the social and micro learning. Think TikTok. It is so addictive. You go on TikTok, you watch these 30-second videos, and you're just on it for 2 hours. Imagine how many 30 seconds, 15-second videos you are watching that you are there for 2 hours. So if there is a platform which can do that for learning, whether it is in-house or whether it is, someone dedicated, a vendor or a technology provider who can do something like that, I think that will be great. Because and we've been talking about all the millennials and plus, right? They are so good at doing that. I sometimes wonder if I should start a YouTube channel or a travel log, and then I'm like, that's a lot of work. You have to carry your camera everywhere, you have to record everything, you have to edit it, you have to do X, Y, Z. And I back off. I'm like, no, I'm good where I am. I don't want to start a channel. But they're good at that, right? They're born into a work, I would say. I was about to say workforce, but I would say, an ecosystem where they learn to do that when they are 3, 4, 5 years old today. So if we can use that potential and have them as the content creator or the learning content creator, imagine that, a TikTok for learning. So I think that would be very interesting. There are some in the market who already provide that. Even at C8, we use LinkedIn Learning extensively. There are new courses that LinkedIn launches, and they also have these themes like Pride is the theme this month, and diversity and inclusion is the theme this month. So we can pick up from there. So there's something for everyone in the market. Again, to sum it up, I feel if you are a small startup, it's really good to start with one of these MOOCs in the market. Then, as you grow, it's important to focus on the compliance and legs and regs as well. And then as you grow and become a 40,000 workforce like we are at Seagate, then you will probably need more than one, because we use degree assistants, we have Sum Total, we have LinkedIn Learning, and then there are businesses who have their own local learning systems, because that's what that dedicated system needs. And then we have, some MOOCs also that we work with. So as you grow, your learning and development ecosystem will also grow with you.
That's an amazing point of view, Divkiran. I'd like to add here, I have an 8-year-old daughter. In the last 1.5 years, she's learned more on YouTube than any other school has taught her. Right? She's like on a lot of puzzles and brain teasing activities. Until her language, the way she looks at things, the way she communicates, vocabulary, everything has changed because she's doing a lot of YouTube. I'm scared if I'm giving her too much screen time, should I take it away or if she's learning? So it's like maybe you need to apply that. Yeah, the millennials and Gen Zs are learning from a lot of these short videos out there. So yeah, TikTok for learning, that's a great idea. Somewhere if we can implement, that will be good as well. Thank you.
And I have one more thing to share on that, Meena. I have a friend whose daughter is also doing the same, and she's younger. She's 1.5, 2 years, still learning to speak, and it's a fun thing to share, right? So whenever we go and visit them, or at least last year when we visited them, instead of saying bye or see you soon as we do, right? She says, thank you and don't forget to subscribe. So this is the kind of effect YouTube is having on everyone now.
Yeah, I think
That
it
is
brings a very interesting. See, one important thing that technology is doing, and that's my belief, and it's independent of the stage of the organization, is it is moving the entire experience to personalization. It is about what works for me would not work for, or Punret would need different, or Meena would different, or Divkiran would need different. I think that's where technology is taking up. Learning is getting personalized. HR tech compensation is getting personalized. Performance management is getting personalized. So at the core, I believe what technology is doing is just is killing that clutter, saying that okay, one policy and everybody falls into that. From there, how do we use technology to enable personalized experience, and that's where I think it's super awesome.
That's great. That's great to hear. Do you also want to add a few points on productivity tools that you guys are using? Maybe they can start and then we can go back.
Well, for us, it's mostly Microsoft, to be honest. It's the whole suite that we use, and we are trying to, bring in my analytics, which, again, what Ketan said, right? Personalize insights into how much time you're spending in meetings, how much time you're spending on me time, what is the focus time that you're having this week, etc. And, a lot of other features Microsoft is working on. But Microsoft is the primary suite that we, use for productivity today. Having said that, that is definitely an area of interest, and I would say that it's really because of COVID and the whole work from home construct and distributed teams. Because at least when you were in a team which is global, you could say that you are in different countries, but now we are in one country and we haven't seen each other in, I don't know, maybe 1.5 years. I was onboarded to Seagate virtually. So especially in this context, how can some of these new technology or the new tech solutions can help increase the productivity is extremely important to see. Because what we have today in the market, whether it be Microsoft or Slack and some of those products which a lot of companies were already using, they were never developed from scratch to help you manage the issue, or the world of virtual work where maximum employees are virtual. It was the other way around. It was for people who want to connect, but sometimes they may be virtual. So it's very interesting, evolving space to see what can be done. Probably bring in that personalization, bring in that connectivity. How do you engage people? Because today it's more about collaboration and less about engagement. So maybe there is, I mean, not maybe, definitely space for a lot of new tools to come into this space, offering tech solutions to address both new and persistent problems here. And new being the new normal of working in the virtual world. I haven't seen a lot of tools in this space. I still think Microsoft is the leader there, trying to do a lot of new things. They are coming up with an employee experience platform as well. So it kind of connects everything and gives you that engagement we were talking about earlier. Some are even talking about, knowing uh, what you're thinking, or what you're feeling today, and all those kind of things, but integrating them into one. I feel another challenge that will bring is really the personal data privacy as well. Like, how much do I really want my company to know? I think we had a discussion a few days back about, do I want to tell, or do my company wants to know if I had the vaccine or did not? Maybe I just don't even want to share that. So those problems will also come with it. It's like the other side of the coin. How much do you share? How much is it okay to share? So I think definitely this space is where there is a lot of potential to grow. Personally, I'm also interested to see how AI, learning, etc., can help, because today they are really big in the recruitment space, right? But not a lot of other uh, application has been seen to be very successful. It's still in the experimental stage. So yeah. And lastly, the reason this is important is because last year everybody was talking about productivity becoming really, really high because everybody's working from home. We are able to, blend our lives and work, etc., etc. But this year, almost every survey, whether that has been done by Deloitte, Mercer, or anybody else, it just very clearly shows that that is now becoming a problem. What was working last year is not working this year, and productivity is starting to decrease because people are burning out. So I feel it needs to be tied to that wellness aspect as well. Shouldn't purely just be about productivity.
Yeah, I buy that point there because when it comes to productivity, we're using a lot of tools. We are using Jira, Slide, Slack, and it's overrun of information that's around everywhere, right? Suddenly, people are interacting with folks on WhatsApp and Slack and on Slide, on Jira, and then people come to me saying, where should I find that one thread is split across in 10 places now? Am I human or not? Right? Just give me one place to look into. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time, really stressed out, burnt out, trying to look at every place and give solutions. I think, yeah, that great point there, Dev. I think we have to approach it with the wellness aspect as well when we look at productivity. Efficiency is very important when everyone's working virtually. So, Ketan and Punri, other than swearing for Slack for productivity as a tool, what are the tools are you using? Probably you can cover it in a minute, and then we can move to the next question. So let's start. Let's go with Punret first. Which tool are you using for efficiency and productivity?
So that's a very good question. I mean, I think over the last couple of months, we've really, tried and tested a lot of products from, Monday.com for helping us manage the tasks that need to be, completed. To, Coda is a new platform which actually integrates everything from your sheets to your Google Docs, and you can actually get it into one place. Obviously, Google Analytics is something that we swear by because, I think Google is doing a really good job in that. uh, but yeah, we're figuring out a lot of tools. So the most recent one that is an extension of Slack is this Donut. So it's a really fun tool, which it's like a water cooler conversation. Which when you were working in your company, you would just go to fill your water or something like that, and you would find another person standing there, and you would just randomly have a 10-minute catch up, right? So this tool sort of helps you create virtual water cooler sessions where you have two random people pulled together on Slack, given a couple of topics to talk about, and you just hit it out from there. So
That's
I can
great.
see that in this space, a lot of tools are moving across like that. So these are the couple of tools that we're really dabbling into. Obviously, as this space is improving with the current situation and with work from home being the new norm, right? I can feel a lot of tools going to be emerging in the next couple of months in this space, and I'm excited about that. I'm going to be in touch with Ketan because I know he's going to be looking at all these tech tools. And I'm going to ask him after a couple of months which is his favorite tool, and I'm going to implement that.
Sure.
You can let me also know, Punret, because Monday.com is something I've used, and I actually I really enjoy using it.
Yep.
The way it's just super simple, the way the UX and the way experience is, and might be a little old school, Meena, but I still think just pick up the phone and call each other is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I
Because
think that's the best way. I think my team really is annoyed by that, so I have to figure out innovative ways to just give them messages because every time I call them, half of the time they just ignore my phone calls. So it's a good situation to have these tools to just keep casually, gently nudging them on the work they need to complete.
Yeah, I think we'll get to the challenges part right next after Ketan talks about the tools that he's using.
So,
Ketan.
and again, see, and a very important dimension of technology is technology should support the philosophy of the organization. Now, if you ask me personally, if somebody asks me, am I productive, I will hate it. See, production comes from the era of industrial time when there is a time unit where you are supposed to produce more. Now, I will use that dimension, and I use that dimension for 70-80% of the workforce that we have because we are very operationally heavy. Now, there, from a design point, what we do is how can I pass the control of enhancement to the user? That's the philosophy that we use. Now, having worked with large sales organization, if they're able to predict and see, okay, if I continue performing this way, I would end up here. But if I do these tweaks, I can enhance my performance has worked like charm. And you link incentive to it, that's like worked really well. Now, honestly, if I go to my tech folks and my data engineering, marketing, even ask and say productivity, I personally hate that word.
They
It is
don't
about
have an answer also.
it is about enabling. Now, for me, I would go and say, okay, how can I enable your performance of the out whatever you're looking at? But performance enablement is a far more cohesive word because their role can suddenly have a 500x multiplier on the outcome. That's why these are role are paid differently and are managed differently. Now there, as I said, we do use Slack, we do use ClickUp, we've used something like Dockable for some time, and again, somebody will suddenly come on Discord, and also we have let it be people whatever works for that function because there's also a trend, there's also a FOMO that hits in, right? If everybody's on Slack, I need to be on Slack. We're pretty fine with that in terms of how whatever works for you we are absolutely fine, and these are the tools that essentially get used. But again, saying what's the philosophy, what's the role, and what's the tool to be used are very important when it comes to deciding what kind of technology you would use. We have simple tool like a metabase that we have used to create individual dashboards where you go to the dashboard, the executive can say, okay, this is what I was supposed to do, this is what I've done. If I do these 3 4 more things, how can I enhance the output that I'm expected for myself? And that creates a lot of shift. Unfortunately, I haven't come across a very strong tool which visualizes this entire thing and can enable the sales organization. I know few people who are working on it, but that's a space that still nobody has touched for I don't know the reason, but yeah, that's what I would have to say on productivity.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I would agree with that, Ketan, and maybe that's because it's not as straightforward as we could calculate productivity in manufacturing, right? How many output units are coming out in a particular hour? What is the input? Because I guess in terms of a human performance, like you said, right, performance improvement, there's a lot of those subjective parameters as well that need to be evaluated. So.
Imagine my boss asking how productive were you. Like, okay. I don't have an answer, but yeah.
I produced 3 documents today. Please review.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of contention there when we talk about productivity. Even today, even large organizations and good established tech organizations cannot tell how productive their tech team is because there's no one way to look into it. Like, there's several methods, several tools, and I don't know. Tech perspective itself, they want to say that, oh, I put so much effort. No, don't talk to me about productivity. So let's also talk about some challenges that you faced, right? We know we have like a long number of HR tech and productivity tools out there. But what are the challenges you're facing now? Like Punit was talking about Donut. I personally implemented Donut and I see it as a failure because maybe there's a initial charm to it that people want to use. Go and click on donut, find a match, and talk to that person. After that, it's becoming an effort. I'm like, I have hundreds of things to do. Why do you want to click on that donut, block 15 minutes and make an effort to talk to that person? I can talk to that person whenever I require. I don't need donut to do that. It's just adding on to my stress in that particular day, right? So that's the kind of failure I've seen. So I want to understand from your end what challenges you've seen and what where do you see some of the tools have not worked for you. Should we start with Punrit perhaps?
Perfect. I think that's a very good point because I think with with these tools that we're implementing, it's always going to be a little bit of friction, especially to accept something new, right? It's always going to be a challenge how people perceive it and how the older folks who probably used to a particular set of things, right? Accept this and implement this in their own day and age. So the few challenges that we faced right now is I think the most important is making people understand how to use this tool, right? Because earlier when you were face to face or in office, right, you could just walk up to that person or the person could walk up to you and be like, hey, dude, I'm just facing this issue, right? Or how do I tackle this? From example on fresh teams, like putting an interview feedback or a small thing like just even viewing a profile, right? How do you do that? These small things were a issue for us simply because we were completely remote, and b because we had two offices in the US and in India, right? It was a challenge to get it implemented in both these places. The one thing which we felt helped a lot was creating small snippets of the how to do the small tasks, a 10-20 second videos on just how to view a profile or how to put feedback or how to pass this profile to the next person to interview. These small videos really help the team just to look at it and just get an idea of what's happening. So that's one of the challenges and the ways we face that challenge. Another thing that we faced in our company was acceptance of scheduling of candidates, right? So for there's this software called Candly, which we use for booking the slots of the interviewers. That was one of the challenges because they didn't want to take interviews ad hoc. They didn't want to do interviews on the go, right? They wanted to have some times fixed for doing these interviews. So I think Candly there was a solution. It was difficult to get it integrated, and it was a little bit of a challenge to get it integrated with the current system of fresh teams. But then we sort of did a manual, I would say, jugaad, and what we do now is see the open slots in Candly and then book it on fresh teams manually. So waiting for that's one issue which we still are planning to fix. But yeah, as Indians, we always find a jugaad for things.
I think that's a very valid point there, Pundi. So you have multiple tech solving one problem statement, and how do we integrate everything together? Otherwise, we have to find our own ways and own jugads to kind of look into how we can, solve
Exactly.
that. That's a great point there, Pundi. So let's hear it from Ketan, especially in engagement tools, etc. What kind of challenges are you facing today?
See, the two challenges that I see in any technology. One, and that's the first challenge I as an HR professional supposed to do, and that's my request to everybody. We need to start thinking like a product manager. Now, a lot of time we just want to take a technology and force it down. It fails. Puneet spoke about adoption. Adoption is the biggest one. How do you create a value for your user? Now, that will only happen if you understand technology and understand the pain point of the business, right? There are millions of technology, but you need to know what are the pain points that you're solving. If you are able to bridge this gap, the adoption increases. How do you get them involved into the design principles? How do you get them involved into the decision making? End of the day, they are the one who are going to essentially use it. Now, once they own it, the ownership travels down. The biggest battle is about how to overcome and increase the adoption. So one is we need to start thinking as product manager. We need to be aware of technology, and we need to be aware of the business. This is where the role of HR is also evolving, right? We are going to be design thinkers of future and advisors, saying that what can I offer you from technology to enhance your business. So that's number one. Second, the complexity, and Purneet and Meena, you touched upon this. So at IDFC Bank, we had 47 applications which we developed in-house. 47. We were hiring about 900 people a month, and we were hiring it in locations where humans can't reach in 2 days. So I'm talking about rural India. But we were ensuring that on the first day itself, they had their ID cards, their uniforms, their dormitory, every possible thing delivered. And we had a 99.9% of accuracy rate there. So technology solved for it, but at a phase two, what the problem was the integration. Now, imagine one technology goes for an upgrade. Now the other API fails. Now, to do this, we again had a bunch of folks who just had to do it. So the integration of technology and thinking, can it dovetail into your existing core technology, which could be, say, HRMS. Now we had Oracle there. We were planning to move to Fusion, but Oracle is a I worked with people soft. It's a, now when I look at, I don't know why somebody even designed it, but yeah, how do you have such a robust system and the other systems are speaking to them? PeopleSoft would upgrade, and suddenly all the systems are like not talking to each other, and we were suddenly wondering what has happened. Why is the information not coming? So I think this integration of technology and selecting what works for you is going to be super important. It's easy to implement technology, but how do you ensure that you're able to carry forward to it? Otherwise, you have implemented technology, but you need a workforce to just manage the integration. I think that's a complex piece we may get into. So those are the two things that I would put across broadly. Otherwise, the tools that I've used is very holistic, and they're speaking to my core HR tech. So that's one check that I always have. That can it get automatically integrated to my core tech solution? Now that's an important piece for me. And if it is yes, then I move ahead and decide that do I go with this technology. So Culture Monkey fitted in well, Dockable fitted in well. From that, Happy that we use, it fitted in well. We took a new technology called Notice Board. Now, Notice Board is very good for bite-sized learning for operating folks, people who are there in the field who don't have too much of a data bandwidth. So you can create 3 minutes video, they'll consume it over an app, done. That's how you reinforce learning for them. So we use that as a bench, as a yardstick. And at core, we use Zing HR. So Zing is my core platform, and that's when I look at how can these integrations happen. So yeah, that's from my side.
Thanks, Ketan. I think you hit the nail with two important things with HR tech, right? I'm sure the rest of them will also agree. It's about ensuring every of your tech talks to each other. There is a good marriage with everyone there. And then adaptation, I think it's so important. I think I've personally implemented so many tools, and over a course of time, I don't see adaptation even after a lot of pushing, a lot of persuasion, and then I have to drop it because nobody's using it. Only HR is using it, right? So let's hear from you what kind of challenges she has seen, and what are you going to tell to the audience here?
I think I'll pick up from where Ketan started, right? I felt, on-premise were systems like PeopleSoft and Oracle were slightly, they had different problems, but slightly easier because you would upgrade once in 2 years, right? And then you could customize a lot. So it was really at that point of time, selecting technology was about best fit. But cloud brought in a different kind of benefit, like, you don't have to maintain a lot of workforce to maintain servers or hardware or even the system upgrades, etc. They would do it for you. But that also brought in a new challenge altogether for HR, and I guess for other business functions as well. It's not as customizable, and so the work is not on best fit, but rather what is the best fit for you. And at this point of time, compared to a PeopleSoft, an Oracle, EBS, or SAP, which has been there for 30 years, cloud systems are new. There are a lot of features they are still building, which has opened up space for these niche products in the market. And that's where the challenge that Ketan was mentioning, that integration challenge that comes in. And clouds, they upgrade every 3 months, every 6 months, some of them. So then every downstream system that is connected to it has to be on the same schedule, because they're not going to change your or schedule just because my organization is early or late, for that matter. So that's a huge challenge to look at. I think the other three things, from my perspective of an end-to-end transformations globally, is one, a lot of times I have seen that in these projects, we forget to look at the process, policy, and change management before we go for the system. So and when you're implementing the system, then there will be suddenly this improvement opportunity, or something else that comes up saying, I'm not clear on the process. What is the step we do here? So I think I would advise to say, look at process, policy, and change management way before you start implementing the system, so they don't collide with each other. Simplify the experience. A lot of times we forget about the experience from an employee perspective. Same thing as Ketan mentioned about, having design principles and having employees, managers, leaders participate on what is the end result that they envisage. To give you an example, when we were implementing the talent marketplaces and I started looking at it, the first thing we did was actually go through design workshops without looking at any product, without looking at any strategy on how we would use it, exactly like a product manager would do. Like, Ketan mentioned it bang on, that you have to think like a product manager, and then see what the workforce really needs, then decide what suits you best instead of the other way around. And last, I feel, and I'm a stickler for data and analytics probably, I think that's also something we completely forget when we are designing and buying the systems, is what kind of data it's going to generate for us, and can it provide us either today or in future capability to merge it with other system data that we have and give us some advanced analytics and predictive analytics capability. Because I feel 5 years from now, that is what everybody will be using. We're talking about it for last 5 years as big data or, advanced analytics, etc. But I think next 5 years, it will be really, really data driven on what's proving useful for us, what's not. And I feel also that it allows HR to pivot if they need to, or change strategy and direction if they need to, because otherwise, we don't know what to do, whether it is successful or not. Adoption also, for example, adoption is high or low because you can see how many people visited, how many people returned. So I think data would become extremely, extremely important. Last thought before I close, I think there's still a lot of scope in HR applications to become commercial friendly, the way Facebook is, the way Instagram is, because nobody taught us Instagram, nobody taught us TikTok, nobody taught us Facebook. So if we can have those commercial level UI or user experience for our HR applications, it'll be easier for HR professionals to push and drive that change management. They'll get adopted themselves.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Actually, what's happening is the new age tools that I'm seeing, say nobody taught us how to use Calendly, right? You're able to integrate and use it. I think it's about interest and where it solves the people's problems. If you're imposing a tool and people will use it because it's going to help the HR, they don't want to do it. You have to put a tool in front of them, saying you want to help them. I think that's the most important point here. If you have to really improve adaptation. Thanks, guys. I think there's one more point that I want to talk about before we close here is I'm sure a lot of people in the last decade have been talking about AI, robotics, everything coming into the picture. HR losing their jobs to a lot of those. But what are those tools? I mean, have you seen tools that are super AI driven that may replace people? Right? I kind of still see there's a lot of dependency in people. I bring in a tool, but I really need it for right, manage the processes, ensure implementation is happening, and ensure activities on a monthly basis being driven, and I still need people to do it. Do you think there are AI driven tools that have replaced people yet, and what are those tools? Ketan, do you want to go first?
See, AI, as much as we talk about, especially in HR, still has about 4 to 5 years to go. One fundamental reason is that we have not been a function which has looked and collected data well. See, AI works on if you have data. Personally, if you ask me, it's just that the last 2 years I've started to focus and think about data, but I still don't have a data analytics division in my function right now. So I'm still to cover that gap. So that's the first part. It is about 3-4 years from now. Having said that, there are few tools I've not implemented. I was about to implement, but or I actually like how they've designed. There's one tool called Skillet. They're trying to solve the entire recruitment problem. I think if there's one place where this needs to be solved mostly right now is the entire recruitment machinery. It's completely unstructured, unorganized, and it's in a complete chaos. Everybody's trying to say I can solve the problem, but it will take time. But I liked what they have essentially done. Another thing, at least as a startup, what makes my decision easier is if it is a SaaS-based module, and mostly it's a monthly pay rather than a commitment. See, if you suddenly come and say to a startup, give me 3 lakh rupee and give it now for use for future,
It's
not
not.
happening. But if you just say, give me 25,000 bucks, same maths, a month, you don't want to use it, move out of it, that will essentially see a significant adoption, especially in the startup organization. Because for me to sign up for 25K is easy. I can pull back if it doesn't work, but to commit something and say you charge, I know the kind of implementation charge we paid for people soft at Aditya Birla Group. We can buy 6 companies with the amount of money that we have spent there. But today, if you tell me that you will charge 5 lakh rupee to come and implement, say, a Culture Monkey or Skillet, I'll say, sorry, boss, please walk away. It is not going to happen. Give me something that I can just integrate the API integration with my HR tech. I train people, done. So that's what. So that I digress. But data is the most important thing that we need to look at. We still have 5 years to go. Skillet is one. Another company that I'm impressed with, which is doing a lot of work in performance management and using AI and ML, is Mesh. Mesh is into performance management, and I've been interacting with the founders, but their thinking is like very rock solid, like a product manager. And these guys are literally integrating everything that you do in bits and pieces. And how do you bring it together in one common dashboard, which individuals can see and managers can see? It's pricey, but it is definitely worth it for enterprise and for larger organization. Of course, I said Culture Monkey provided that sentiment analysis. That it's basic, but it's very important. I could, from a feedback sense, that is the mood happy, upset, or kind of very excited, and then I'm able to make a decision there. So these three top of the mind that I like. Another one, if you guys are keen on, is a product called Degreed. I don't know if you've used it, but again, we were about to implement that at IDFC. Brilliant technology. You're taking the entire LMS and the information system and creating a layer over that, which again can get customized. You can have individual growth plan in that, and you can have the content is not necessarily in-house. You can even have open content coming in, and it will convert that into a point, and then you scale up. Pretty impressive as a tool that they created, both for individual and for corporate. So, and they're using quite a lot of AI and the ML technologies, but a long distance to go. Amazon took 30 years to now today predict what will I buy. And if I think that I can do that in HR in 2 years, we're very far from that.
Now, I think I totally vouch for Mesh. The kind of data insights they have, the way they use their AI to give you enough analytics and insights, right? That's really crazy. I think a lot of new age startups are using it, and I think they're really benefiting out of it. So so I don't want to bias this conversation. So let's hear it from Punret. What are the AI-driven tools that you are using and have really seen success?
So I think I completely have to agree with Ketan on that. I think we're 4 5 years away from actually having a proper AI system for especially HR, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a people operation. That's what the crux of it is, right? It's a little difficult to manage emotions and manage the people, the thought processes now, right? As compared to the thing that like on Amazon, right? Buying something online or something like that. I feel right now, at least in early stage startup or a small company, right? All these productivity and AI driven tools are given a backseat to people as a people as a tool, I would say. Because I feel like in a startup you have to build that culture, you have to have that closeness and the family environment, right? And for that, having people to do that job, at least in the starting, that is where what I've seen help and work best in the company which I've worked. Obviously, once you reach a team of 100, 150, 200, right? Tools are always better than people, but I feel in the starting five or 10 people or a 20-member team, right? Having a person on the team as compared to a tool just makes a difference, just to create that sort of culture for the company and let that culture grow along as well.
That's pretty true, Punrit. I think the first few set of people really need that importance of bonding and camaraderie. Otherwise, you're not building the team, right? You're just
Exactly.
building a bunch of machines then.
A very important point that Divkiran said, which is still, I think, will shape up the AI and the ML thing, is how much of data of individuals would you and can you essentially access and process? Now, that's a very sensitive time. Would I want my boss to know that I'm going to resign 3 months later? I would not want that to happen, or because you suddenly, if it is misused, it can start manipulating people, which is where I think the world, there would be policy, there would be a lot of debate, but I know that's a debate still at a global level. How much is good enough? But when it comes to people, it's scary. I think it's doable, but what form will it get used? Imagine organizations trying to manipulate people with some incentive and tips just so that they don't move. Not fair to an extent, but I'm sure we will be a party to that discussion as we go ahead.
Yeah, that's very important, Ketan. I think you need to use insights and also apply your own intelligence. Going by that would really put you in a spot, right? You might not want to confront a people person saying, "Hey, I can see this is an indication that you will leave in 2 months." He's gonna. I mean, you're gonna lose that relationship. So it's always important to take insights and apply your own EI to approach people and talk to them, right? All
Yeah,
right, sounds good.
US election was one on the entire game here, right? Now imagine if people are able to do that for organization. There is a scare that I have there. I don't know how to solve for it, but yeah, that's a way.
Yeah, I think that's one thing which I think everyone is on the same boat there, Ketan. I think even I feel the same thing. I mean, it's going to be a interesting time and exciting, scary at the same time, fun. I feel like everything is a learning experience, right? And I think that's how you keep moving along and keep progressing, and not only the company but as a personal growth as well.
Yeah. So Dev, your closing notes on the AI tools that you used.
For me, Meena, I completely agree with Ketan and Punrit what they said, but slightly different in terms of how soon this might come. Data definitely, like Ketan said, we don't have the same quality and amount of data as Amazon or Google has on marketing, for example, the way they have built their procurement or selling and all of those algorithms. HR doesn't have that. And secondly, I think even for them, with all the data, they're not able to crack things which are subjective, right? Sentiment analysis. If you're writing something, is it positive? Is it negative? What kind of sentiment that is? And so for HR, which is highly human touch and conversation based and a lot more subjective than, we talked about productivity or procurement and inventory, for example. I think it will take a lot more time than what it took, Amazon. Of course, processing power of computers is getting better. So 30 years for them probably will translate only to 10 years for HR, but it will take time. And that's why I don't like calling it artificial intelligence for HR. I prefer calling it augmented intelligence, right? It's supplementing what we are doing, helping us make better decisions. But it's not, I don't feel that at least in the next 5 to 10 years, it can completely replace HR professionals, and I'm eager to see what happens after those 10 years, 7 years, and where we are. And in terms of products, I don't know if I should say if I've been lucky or fortunate, but I have worked with some of them. I think 3 or 4 products that I have worked with. The one which I really like and I've worked with 3 years and co-innovated with that team is Gloat, which is into the internal mobility space, and a lot of good work being done. And still there is a lot of scope of improvement as well. It is all about giving you internal mobility and insight and transparency into what kind of jobs you can do internally. Internal gig economy, pick up projects to develop yourself, or as a consultant help another team, finding the right mentors which you don't know. So across geographies, across business units, you discover untapped unknown talent for your mentoring as well as for your positions. And then career pathing, the dynamic career pathing I really like, because careers are changing every 2 years. You might be pursuing something like, who would have thought of a chief happiness officer or a chief diversity officer 10 years back? So all of those things are really, really interesting. It takes time to build that. Definitely get that data in place, get that taxonomy of jobs in place for your company. But that is one space. Ketan, you mentioned Degree. There is Edcast also that I have worked with in the similar space. So they are also trying to do this. And then I think in an analytics space, I've worked with ThoughtSpot. Oracle is also there, they do that. But I really, really loved working with ThoughtSpot as a tool. Its aim is to become Google for your analytics. So you have all your data and you have everything in the background. You just search women, diversity, or something else in a particular location, and it'll give you that automatically. You don't need to build reports or have an analytics person doing that for you. So, and then there are a lot of competition for the same tool. So that could open up a whole new conversation. But yeah, I think these 3 tools is what I have worked with. So I can tell you that I've enjoyed working on this. But definitely a long way to get to a place where they could replace the human judgment, really. And learning also. I think humans still learn faster than machines.
Yeah, I'm totally in awe, Divkiran, that some organizations that you worked with is really advanced in the way they are looking at technology, um, either diversity, mobility, finding mentors, learning, etc. I hope most organizations get there at least, or if we get access to cheaper tools that are out there for us to help with all of this. Thanks for your sharing. I think today was a great conversation. A lot of topics covered. I think I may want to play this recording again and again to see if I've something that I've missed, that I've not understood well, and then go back and learn it again. Thank you, guys. Great having you here. I'm sure it's a little stretch, but
Thank you,
thanks a lot.
Thanks so
wonderful
much, Meena, for
conversation.
inviting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Puneet.
Thanks,
Divkiran,
everybody.
Thanks so
Meena,
much,
bye.
Ketan.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Divkiran.
guys out there.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.